once a week. And it is in that regard that I will be addressing you on the political domain, or penetrating the political domain. The seat that we won in that municipality, in local government, is attributed to three things. And I rather clear that up in the beginning. It's attributed to the covering of Papa Jonathan Mam Helen, beyond a shadow of a doubt. And that's the order of importance. Because if you have the other two and you don't have number one, you're still lost. The second person that I attribute our success in the political domain in the past few years is my wife, Michelle. You know, in fact, Michelle should have been standing here because throughout the campaign, Michelle has been my campaign manager. People ask me, how did you get the seat? I tell them, ask my wife. I have no idea. And the third thing I'd like to attribute it to is my church called Groundbreakers. We have broken ground in politics. Because I don't know how they do it, but they have done it in a fantastic way. In 2008, I joined Papa. I've known Papa for many years before that. We've loved him, attended his conferences, supported him. He's known that. But in 2008, we became official, made the official signature, and came under the covering. From that moment, everything changed drastically. Around that time also, God had spoken to us prophetically to leave the town that we were living in. We were living in a town further north called Stanger. And God asked us to leave. But through the counsel, godly counsel of Papa Jonathan and other Isaac brothers like Pastor Shailen, it was of the Lord that we went down south to the town of Belito. Now, that was good. That was of the Lord, and God has blessed us there. But that brought a few challenges. Because the challenges that we faced, especially in the light of entering the political domain, is that my church, Groundbreakers, is an excellent church. They are 50 strong, emphasis on strong. We have a strong leadership culture, but it's 50. And in politics, especially democracy, we got to talk numbers. Because numbers attains to votes. So 50 strong, that's all we were. And we moved into this town called Belito. The other thing about my 50-so congregation is that they have ethnic or origins of being Indian. You say that's not a problem. It was not a problem, but the town that we moved into is predominantly white. Till today, it's 80-90% white community. And we are this Indian church in Belito. So that was a political challenge in itself. We faced other challenges as well. Next slide. The challenges of that, by 2009, I had no political background. There was nothing. The only thing you'd see in my political background is the voting station after I voted for I don't know who. No political background, no political interest, no political training, no political understanding. I did not understand the difference between national, provincial, and local government. No, but I wasn't stupid. You know, I was like not interested. It wasn't my thing. And also I had no political connections. I did not have any uncle in politics. I'm not related to the Kennedys or the Mexicans, although some people think I'm a Mexican. And so this was the state we came in. But there's one thing that I did have in 2009. At the end of 2009, Papa released a prophetic word. 5 DVDs reached us. One had the prophetic word. The one word that stood out, the next slide, was maximum visibility, maximum impact. And that was a word that hit my spirit. It hit my spirit strong. And for the next few months, through 2010, we started to sit down with our church and strategize, how do we fulfill this prophetic word? How do we maximize our visibility and maximize our impact? More so because we're in a new town And our town is fast growing. It's one of the fastest growing towns in South Africa that's going to become, have city status, we really believe, in the years to come. And then as we sat for the next few months, right until May 2010, strategizing, and I said, I told my guys and my sons to position themselves in all over the community, in organizations, in clubs, in political parties, no matter what political party, just join in and become visible and start to make a difference. And so they were all ready to run. But then I came here to GLS ITIP 2010, God's template for national transformation. You remember that one? And Tundi really opened his heart, and Papa and Tundi really took and unpacked the political domain in a powerful way. As I sat there, my spirit, I was devastated. It devastated me, and I realized, hearing Pastor Dr. Tundi's testimony and what was happening in Nigeria, and they were going on for the election, was tremendous. And at that GLS, there was a grace that was imparted. There was a strong grace that I received. Besides that, God was doing something and arranging something for us. Because in that meeting, one of the South African parliamentarians, who is also the leader of a political party, had come here to attend the GLS. That was Reverend Kenneth Meshwe. Maybe you can go to the next slide and you get a glimpse of him. So, Reverend Kenneth Meshwe had come to these meetings. Next. Reverend Kenneth Meshwe is on your left. He's the president of the political party called the African Christian Democratic Party. And on your right is Councillor Wayne Thring. He's the deputy president. Both of them are pastors of churches, one in Johannesburg and the other in Durban. And they are the leadership of this party. Well, Reverend Kenneth Meshwe was seated here, and he was here because a prophecy that he released was correlating with something Papa had prophesied over South Africa. And so he had come here. And in that, we've known him because I voted for this party, having conservative Christian values since the advent of democracy in our country. And seeing him here was a tremendous privilege. We served him lunch, showed him the toilets upstairs, the better toilets. Just honored him because of the work he's doing. But we didn't talk politics, neither did I make any political connection. But I knew God was going to do something. So we went back to South Africa. There's a tremendous interest in my heart to get involved in politics. One of my friends connects me with, besides meeting the president, he connects me with Wayne Thring. Now, I did not know the deputy president. And he asked me to have coffee with this counselor. He's part of this Christian party. And just chat with him about what you'd like to do. And so we had coffee. I went over to Durban. I met with him. We had coffee. And we spoke about it. And he challenged me. And I came out of that meeting. And here I had met the president. I had met the deputy president of this party. But there was still no go-ahead. When I left the GLS ITIP and went back to the church, one of my sons, responding to the thrust of maximum visibility, maximum impact, had joined a local branch of this party in one of the towns. And so he told me, Pastor, I'm going to these ACDP meetings and I'm going to stand as a candidate. And when I told them that you are my pastor, they know you well, and they said, please, bring your pastor in. So it didn't appeal to me just at first, but after some coercion, I went with him to one of the first meetings. When I was at the meeting, at this local ACDP meeting, the chairman of that meeting told me that the region that I was living in, now we live, our government system is federal, so we live in a constituency or a municipality. And our municipality is large. It stretches close to about 800 square kilometers. Now, I'm down south on the coastal region, and he was telling me that in the past many years, there's never been a candidate in my town, but they've always received votes from conservative Christians already, lots of votes from that town. And he says, if you stand as a candidate, something can really happen. So it was very appealing, but I told him, listen, the Lord has not spoken to me yet. And I need to get back to you. So I got into my car that evening. I was alone. And I'm driving back home from one town to the other. It's about half an hour's drive. And I start to pray. And I say, Lord, what do you think? Should I? Shouldn't I? And it was as if the Lord rebuked me. And he says, do you have the audacity even to ask me that question? I've allowed you to meet the president. I've allowed you to meet the deputy president. You know, you didn't even know it. And your son has already connected. And these guys are saying, join the political party. It's yours. You know, and you're asking questions. And I said, Lord, so when I drove home, I told Michelle, my wife, that this is it. This is the way we're going. But as you guys would know, we don't stand alone and just with our families. We have a church family. We're in covenant with a people. But I had to get the buy-in of the church. And so I went over to the church, and amazingly, our people were saturated with maximum visibility, maximum impact. In fact, they were excited to find this is a big project for us. We go 100% commitment from all of them. In fact, so much so that all of them became members immediately of this party. They paid their 10 South African rands, became members of the party, which gave us leverage because you only need 15 members to start one branch. All right. So already we could start many branches. And what happened was that our municipality is made up of 27 different wards or constituencies. All right? We had 7. Remember, I just have a church at about 50 members. 7 candidates came out of our church. We're willing. Some of them just stood as ghost candidates to get votes. But they stood as candidates, and some of us, like I, stood over 3 constituencies. Another gentleman stood for 2. So in total, the 7 members of our church stood over 12 different constituencies, which is almost 44% of the entire municipality. That we just were standing as candidates. So immediately, you know, there was this interest, but listen, it was happening so fast for us that, you know, that it became a point of contention. Yeah. With the guy who was leading the party before, with the party itself, with some of the Christians and pastors on the ground. And we don't want to concern ourselves with those things, but we'll see if we get a chance later. Listen, and the success, like I said, of our campaign was because it was headed by my campaign manager, Michelle. Now, the challenge for us also, having the buy-in of the church, we realized we did not have, this is politics, and we did not have visibility. We're in a new community. We're in this community for 1.5 years. Nobody knows us. We know nobody. And we cannot go on like that. So we started a visibility campaign. Next. God fortunately allowed the word to hit me so strong that around that time, the Indian communities, now you got to understand that the Indian community in Durban, around Durban, is the greatest Indian population outside of India. It's the greatest concentration of Indians. And so, at that time, the Indians were celebrating 150 years of their arrival into South Africa. And what was ridiculous was that the church, the so-called Indian churches in the area, right through Durban, Phoenix, Chatsworth, were also running with these projects and had some big names backing it. And they were willing at the beachfront to build a ship the size that brought the Indians to South Africa. There was crazy things happening. And so one day when I was going to pick up my kids from school, I heard the advert on the radio. And I knew God was ministering to me to hit this thing. And so God said, listen, do what Papa was going to do for India. Papa said he's going to bypass the pastors and get it to the people. So the Lord said, use the media and bypass the pastors because they are in it and get the word to the people. And so I started to do that. I used the media. I came back home that evening and I thought, Lord, what do I write? And the Lord took me to Papa's book, Apostolic Strategies, the Jerusalem church, how it should not be a single ethnic culture church. And I took the first page, second page, almost verbatim, took the words out, wrote it as a letter to the editor, sent it out, especially to our community. Around our community, between the 2 towns of Stang and Belito, we have 5 local papers. And we've used this to the maximum. Outside of it, like for example, we're 10 minutes away where Pastor Shane, one of the Isaac pastors, also lives. There's other local papers there. There's 2 there. And beyond that, the province has a few, like the Daily News and the Post, and the nation has like the Sunday Tribune and the Times. We used all. We just sent this, blasted it. And the feedback came from throughout the nation, especially within our community. The pastor sent a letter wanting me to recant, repent, and do all these things. I knew it wasn't my word, it's the Father's word, so I was safe. And so back and forth for the next month or 2, there were letters going public. And we were going public with the faith and hitting this. We hit it to such an extent that all these projects to celebrate 150 years of Indians coming to South Africa by the church just failed. It failed in Durban. It rained in our city, in the main meeting in Durban. It poured. Nobody turned up. The non-believers wrote letters to the paper saying how pathetic this whole function turned out to be. It was just great. God was just so good. Now, all that story just to tell you that made us visible. That gave us visibility. That kind of made people turn their heads and made people say, who is Groundbreakers? Who is that church? Who is Pastor Nel? All right, and that was good. It's going to be good for our visibility as a church. Then, we did something else next. We were already in the community for 1.5 to 2 years, but we decided, let's have a church launch. So we had a church launch. We invited reporters of the local newspapers. They came in. We had a launch. It got good publicity. Remember, it gets published in most of the papers, so but I could just get one article. The articles, the graphics may not be so grand because the last minute I was told to do this, so I just couldn't. All of it stored back home in my hard drive, but I just had to get it via our website. And website, you got to reduce the file size so the, some of you know, so the graphics won't be so grand when you expand it. But it'll give you an idea nonetheless, all right? So we did this. And besides that, we had a couple of conferences. We made sure we advertised the conference before, had a write-up after, got visibility for that. And there's a couple of other things we did. And then we went on, when we were ready and the community knew us, next, we went on and we launched our first branch in December 2010. We were in politics. The deputy president himself came and he opened the branch for us. And so that's how we got started. But we were visible, the church was visible, but now we needed to gain visibility politically. And I'm telling you, my church really came to the party at this time. And so what we started to do is started to meet again. And next slide, please. We started to use the letters in the newspapers, use all the newspapers to begin to speak forth from the ACDP point of view, helping people to go and register as voters, addressing certain issues, same-sex marriage issues and different issues in the community. And the media was also very, very supportive. We got some good publicity next. They gave us a complete back page, just an article dedicated to people who have come in new to the north. So we just used everything. Just God gave us tremendous favor. Next, there were also, sometimes we were invited to debates. There was 8 parties beside independent candidates contesting that election. But you can see there's only 3 or 4 that turned up. And we did not lose any opportunity. We just believe God, like Dr. Tundi was saying, go public with our faith. We just went forth. It was out of this debate that I also called some of our political leaders to back me up in terms of knowledge. It was this debate in speaking here that even the lady in the blue, you can't see her, but she's part of one of the biggest, or she's not the biggest party in South Africa, is the ruling party, the ANC, but she was part of the DA. And she had a whole lot of leaders from her party there. And ever since that time, they've been asking me, like before we could come here to GLS, I was asked, there was a by-election in one of the constituencies, and somebody, one of the leaders of the party, got to a member of my church and said, please ask your pastor to stand for election with our party, and we'd make sure, we'd guarantee that he gets a seat. Now, it's no doubt the party has good governance, but they also stand for same-sex marriage and for abortion. And I said, no, that will never happen. But there are things, including the ANC. The ANC has within our council chambers, has requested, the Speaker of the House has asked me, he told me, Pastor, you're in the wrong party, Yeah, it's a minority party, it's a Christian party, we know, but we are the ruling party. But if you can join us, we guarantee you'll have a seat. But anyway, it wasn't the word of the Lord to us. The word of the Lord to us was to go with this party. And so we use whatever ways to get visibility. Now, how many of you heard of negative publicity? You got to use negative publicity. Next slide. During our election campaign, there's some nasty people around that probably the campaigners for the other parties that pull down some of our political boards, my picture, and kind of just threw it on the side. And so one morning when I'm taking my kids to school, I stop the car and I find 2 of my posters on the floor next to a dump site. And so it's no problem. I stand there and I point. That's the picture. I pointed it. My daughter takes a photo on the phone. I come back home, and within 5 minutes we send it to the papers. The papers carried it, gave us a big half-page. And everybody in the town became so sentimental. How could they do this to the pastor? All right, so you get voter sentiment. And besides that, the church became our campaign team. The funds came in from the church. Our biggest supporters, the guys who put up posters, stood at robots to give traffic lights, to give out handbills, there were lots of confrontation on Facebook, mainly from Christian circles, strangely. And I noticed with Pastor B's Facebook, the same things. We always have to defend them. And my sons were just like, basically it trained our church to be very controversial and to become very aggressive. And I think that was something that we lacked previously. It's made us very, very militant. Maybe that's the right word. Very, very militant till today. All right. All of this work was done. We went to election May 2011. Remember, the ACDP people had voted in our municipality all along for the past 20 years. We never got a seat. We had come into the party in 8 months. And on the 9th month was the election, although the party was there for 15 to 20 years. But in that 9 months, we managed for the first time in the history of our municipality to get a winner seat for this party, for the Christian party. Fortunately, I was top on the list, so the seat was mine. The seat was mine, but that was when the work commenced. Now listen, this has done something tremendous for our church because it has given us tremendous opportunities for activism in our community. And I'll show you to you from some of the articles that were there. Next. Immediately what was given when you become a councillor, when you become a municipal or a local government councillor, immediately the newspapers are open to you because you represent the entire municipality, not just your political party. So immediately they give you a column called a report back column. The paper is published every week, and you can report as many times as you want, once a month, twice a month, even 4 times a month. Doesn't matter. They would put your article up, and we have used this. This is just some of the examples of different things that you just tell the community about. So this has opened the doors for us just to talk to the community and tell them what's going on. There's something else, because it gave us stature in our community. Next, it gave us stature in our community. We could become the gatekeepers and not allow certain things. Like what the local newspapers had done. For the first time, we had a Zulu gay marriage in our communities. Now, I don't mind, people can do whatever they feel like. But they had this couple, these 2 men kissing. And the reporters had photographs of these things with write-ups in the papers. We said, no, this is not on, because my children read the newspapers too. And so we hit back with articles like this to all papers, saying this is not on. And we accused the media for sensationalizing this gay marriage. All right, so the community started to take note of some things like this. Next, what did this do for our church? Strangely, I thank God that most of the guys God's given us are very, very professional, very literate, very eloquent, good with words. And we've just raised up writers. Any issue, they will confront it with the letters to the editor, from municipal issues to gay issues, to why Christians should vote, and to discos and nightclubs and abortion and everything. We just hit it, and we just go on. We just go on. I don't want to jump the gun and just tell you some things, but yeah. All right. And besides that, we've also got petitions going. We have online petitions. There's an online petition that we've set up because our community, every year, they allow matriculants that finish their examinations and tests to come into, because it's a beach, it's a holiday community, it's a holiday town, and just allow all these teenagers to come in to kind of drink themselves sick and, just like, and so they call that the rage. And so what we did, we just set up an online petition from all business people to say, no, we're going to shut this thing down, that this is chaotic, it's not good for the community, and so we're shutting that down. And listen, this is just some of the practical stuff we're doing. I haven't even mentioned the spiritual things we do. We don't believe in you can attack anything in the natural without winning the war first in the spirit. All right? And besides that, there's another petition, well, that's still going on, and I'll tell you about that. That's as a final story, because that's one of the interesting ones. We're still fighting that one. Besides that, we've been addressing community needs. Go on. Next. Just helping at local schools with poor learners, getting stationery to the poor learners in different schools. We've been also distributing food, giving food to orphanages, creches. We've also been doing blood pressure checks, just in old age homes, blood pressure, sugar checks for old people. And we've never done things like this. So just penetrating the political domain just brought us and just made us socially relevant too. Besides that, we've also been very active and confrontational. Next. We've done protests, marches, demonstrations. This is the in thing in South Africa. It's so in, we have one going on for 4 months now. The mines, yeah. But we did it for good reasons. We did it against women abuse, for children's rights, and against children abuse and that kind of thing. We marched in Belito, marched in Stanger, had good publicity with that. Next, we've also single-handedly, we've hosted our members of parliament at this last election, which was a couple weeks back. We hosted the president in our territory, in our region, in our town, Reverend Kenneth Meshwe. And prior to that, latter part of last year in August, we hosted Sherilyn Dudley. She's also one of the member of parliaments. God has given us a governmental grace, strangely, and just to have political clout. There were times in the past that we hosted premiers. Premiers are like senators in South Africa. And it was strange that, this was years back. And we'd have the entire street blocked out by police vehicles. Yeah. And so there'd be all these flashing lights. And, they'd say, no, just this church is having something. So it was good to have that kind of clout in society. Besides that, we've done something interesting. Next, we've had so much of interest come in from the Christian community when they saw that we were serious about this, that many started to ask, well, how do we enter in? Nel, you've done it, you've stepped in. How do we do it? And so we decided to put political training for pastors together. Not on the high level and spiritual dimension that Papa or Tuni, not like SOS, but more practical about how to win a seat, about something called a PR vote, about how to run an election campaign, but just some of the things we learned in the hard way about how to do it. And so we put a weekend, mainly on a Saturday, a one-day seminar together for pastors. We had the first one at my church, and we had about 40. Some of the Isaac pastors had come, and we're thankful for that. About 40 there. And then Pastor Ziggy, who had flown down from Belito, which is about 6 hours away. He flew down from Johannesburg to Belito. He requested that, if we can come and have it up there. And so we had it up there as well. And there were 57 pastors and leaders and interested people that were trained. So these are some of the things we've been doing. Let me answer the question of the outcome. What has the outcome been for our church? One of the outcomes is that presently we are directly involved in the decision-making process of our community. Let me give you an example. A few months after getting the seat in council chambers, we were involved in the technical portfolio committee, the infrastructure portfolio committee, and we were sitting down and we were discussing with 10 committee members. We were discussing electricity substations, power substations, that will be implemented over the next few years to the amount of 2 billion South African rands. And when we finished that meeting and the decision was passed and I walked out from there, I was spellbound at the fact that we just made a decision for 2 billion South African rands over the next few years. And I felt like every pastor needs to be in council. We have the wrong people making this decision. I had the privilege also of being part of the oversight committee in our council, which scrutinizes irregular expenses. I think we should be good at doing that. Irregular expenses and wasteful expenditure, so that all the taxpayers' money will be used properly. The main job of the council is to make policies and to make bylaws for the entire community, for the entire municipality, which is 800 and so square kilometers. Besides that, entering the political domain also opened up some doors. It opened up doors of churches and government in unique African nations. Because a few months after we got a seat in Parliament, being a councillor, the President invited us, together with about 10 other councillors, to accompany him, next slide please, to Rwanda. There's one there. I think there's another one as well. Next. Oh, you can go back. It's fine. One slide's been missing. So he asked us to accompany him to Rwanda for diplomatic meetings, and we went, and Burundi. And we went to Burundi and Rwanda. In Rwanda, we had meetings in the Department of Foreign Exchange. Department of Foreign Exchange. The genocide. Basically there's a reconciliation department that Rwanda has, a powerful department that is making sure that what happened 20 years ago when 1 million people were brutally killed in Rwanda, that will never happen. With the nation of Rwanda at that time went from 8 million to 4 million in 3 months. Because 1 million were slaughtered and 3 million walked out of the nation, went to Burundi and the DRC. And so we looked at all of this. We went to the genocide memorial where, as I stood over these graves of 200,000 people buried there. And we wept. We wept for the nation. We brought healing. We also went to Parliament. That's okay. But basically, he's like the Speaker of Parliament. We were in Parliament and we had meetings there. And then we went to Burundi. The president of Burundi is a Christian president. And what happened in Burundi was that on the Sunday we went to different churches, and God had given us a prophetic word to release over the churches. And there was the church that I went to released a prophetic word, and I thought that would be the end. And we released the prophetic word over Burundi. It was so accurate that when we came back, the church requested that we come back, that I come back, and they wanted to know, as I communicated with the pastor, about Papa Jonathan. And so I've been back to the nation last year and, giving the church Papa's material. I tailored it for them, made a booklet for them, gave them CDs. And so the pastor is ready. He wants to connect with Papa Jonathan. And we hope that Burundi will open up very soon. So I should be back there in August this year again. We're just continuing. We're continuing. But that door wouldn't have opened if I wasn't in the political party. All right. The best thing that has happened since us coming to the political party was being positioned in the political sector, was that many in our church have also been positioned in the political sector. My wife, Michelle, is not just my campaign manager, but as she sits here, she is also a ward committee member in my constituency, which means that she is part of a 10-member committee that is basically in charge of all public needs and interests, that it has to come to her and she will represent it to the local government. So, then we have one of my sons, the church, she was also here in SOS in November. And she, together with myself, we didn't only get a seat in the council, but we also went to the higher ranks of the party because of the membership I had. And the members had got more members. And so we had hundreds of members. We had close to 700 or 800 members and many branches. And so that gave us a lot of clout within the political party. And so we managed to put in, I became also, they wanted to vote me in as a chairman, but I didn't want the administration work. So I said, no, deputy chairman gives you the authority with no work. I'll take that. And so we got it. So the deputy chairman there on a provincial level for the party, for the political party. And also one of my sons also came up to the provincial executive committee as well. We were actually offering them all, our guys, to take over the provincial. We said, we'll take over this party even in the nation. Maybe we'll do that. Also, one of the other sons who's also the associate pastor in our church, Desiree. Desiree is a qualified educator. But Desiree is also presently studying law. She's in her second year and she's going to get into politics. Next slide, please. Then we have one of my younger sons, Sipo. Sipo finished metric 2 years ago. Sipo is studying international relations and diplomacy. Sipo has prophetic words that he'll become president one day. From the most strangest times over his life, over many, many years, different words. So he's being geared for parliament. He's also, strangely, as soon as he joined us and got interested, he was voted in as the youth regional executive committee that was launched. This takes over all the youth in a chunk of a major, big area, bigger than our municipality, of all the youth for the party. The rest of our members, every member of our church has been trained as a party leader, has been trained as a party agent, has been trained in campaigning, has been trained in activism. We've done it. Michelle has done it. The last election, they went to voting stations and they were telling the presiding officers in the voting stations what they're doing wrong. We started to write objections right there, what they can do, what they can't do. And we're just communicating one another very strong. Just a very strong force. Also, one of the other implications that has happened is that we have moved the church from being a church to becoming a general assembly. Groundbreakers. Our church is not a church. When we meet, we always executing judgments. When we meet for a purpose. We meet to destroy something, take someone on, or fight something. So whenever we meet, it's like serious. Whenever we pray, whenever we worship, Papa was talking interesting stuff. That's what it's about. We always have problems. And the problems are not us. It's the whole community. And so it comes out in our worship, in our prayer, in our word, just hitting everything in the spirit. And what we've done is within the church, we've established one of our key ministries is something that we call the war room. The war room is what we called political caucus before, but now we call it the war room. In the war room, what we do, we study government documents. We've studied the South African Constitution. We've studied all our rights, the Bill of Rights. We've studied the new plans being implemented by government. The other things we do is that once a week, I have agendas, minutes of meetings that come from council. It's mine. Because I need to study them and go and confront issues. And there's many issues. Especially our minutes on the finance is so thick. And so what I do, we'd come to these caucus meetings, these war rooms, and kind of rip up the minutes. And I'd give different people. If it's an HR issue, I'll give it to the HR person. If it's if it's a business issue, give it to the business. If it's a medical, I give it to the doctor. We just have people all there, and they just give the input. And so we mark the inputs, and I'm the one, I go to council, and then we represent. So when the speaker says this issue anybody has, and so being the only person representing my party, I'm fortunate enough to have 3 minutes on every issue. So if there's 30 issues, I can multiply that by 3, and you've got to take your 3 minutes. And you can talk. The other thing about being part of a Christian party, the benefit is that you're not there to oppose. You see, in South Africa, you have ruling parties and you have opposition parties. But opposition politics doesn't work because our ruling party is dominant. And so if opposition parties oppose, the ruling party just says, we take it to a vote, and they vote them out. But if I put up my hand and speak, all will listen. Because they know you are not confronting. They know the only interest we have is the best interest of our people and the community. At our war room also, we find out what's the issues that's on our hearts. What's the agenda? What's the agenda of the homosexuals, lobbyists? What's the agenda of the pro-abortion campaigners? What's the president doing? The president of South Africa. What's the corruption issues? And how do we address this? And it comes down to putting letters to the editor, having write-ups, and confronting it. We always come out from there with decisions about what each one needs to do. All right. And in the end, we also, in the war room, we discuss the political party issues if there's any kind of administrative issues. Finally, I think it's the last slide. One of the things God has called us to do as a Zion Church, as a General Assembly, is to execute the written judgments of God. And we've been very good as a prophetic church to do that. God has shown us we were able to, in the years past, just to speak over territories that are just bare land and speak and begin to see a hub and train stations and things happening and prophesy that. And a few months later in the newspapers, you see that a 6 billion development is coming in that area. Just speaking. Now, what has happened also in this time is that it's not like we did not have any opposition. We've had opposition. When I went to the first election, a gentleman, I don't know if I can call him that, but we just call him that. A fellow politician, more like a mafia leader, in one of the communities, and Pastor Trevor lives in that town. Basically, he stood as a candidate opposing us, and he was part of the ruling party. He has such influence over the community and over many pastors in that community. Kind of buys them off because he's a businessman as well and has these clubs and just kind of, there's a lot of corruption in his life, a lot of crime in his past. So he's standing as a candidate for the ruling party, and he is going to win this election in that constituency hands down. Now that's contest for the past 3 to 4 years. Every Tuesday we meet, we sit down with the entire church, we watch Papa's DVD. For the past 4 years, non-stop. At first I wanted to try it for a few months. I thought people would just fizzle away and the attendance would drop. It hasn't. They stayed strong. They stay strong. So just on a Tuesday we do that. We've made sure also in the past 2 to 3 years we've implemented a new strategy. We told every family, you need one of Papa's books. So after every 2 months, every month or two, we said, get ready, get your finances ready. From Pastor Jan's church, we ordered the books. We make sure every one of Papa's books is in every home. So in this way, we saturate it. And so when you want the buy-in of the church for anything, they are just there and willing because they believe in it. Guys, let me tell you this in closing, that Pastor B said, it is time for us to take our faith public. He also said it is time for pastors of churches to become elders of their cities. Amen? Elders of their cities. From having oversight over 50 people in a church, I now have oversight over 250,000 people, 250,000 people in my municipality. Because every decision that is brought to council chambers pertains to that 250,000 people out there. And every decision is made for their basic needs, their basic services. And it's so good just having oversight over the entire municipality and all those people. We're just pastoring our entire community now. And more than that, listen, I mean, it's to have oversight over decisions that have to do with millions of rands. The budget for our municipality is 1 million per annum that is just circulated. To prophesy and to have oversight and interest in projects that are worth 6 billion is something we never dreamt was possible. But it's something God has put in our hands. And He should do it with you too. Listen, I thank you for giving me attention, and I hope I inspired you in some way. Thank you, Mom.
Thank you. Oh, that's a real wow, isn't it? My. You know, if we didn't call him, we wouldn't know. You know how God is man and infiltrated into the society, making positive inroads. That the word that God has been releasing here is really taking ground, and it's taking effect, and we are really seeing it's working. Wow. So now it's pastoring to half a 250,000 of the people. And you wouldn't be able to build a church big enough to house 250,000 people, but God has got a way. And every time He says He's spending this money and making a decision for this and that, thinking, wow, He's really spending from Jehovah's pocket, right? It doesn't have to come to your pocket, it doesn't have to come to your church, but you're already spending the money. Spending from Jehovah's pocket, in a different way that we understand. The way He talk about His church, not like how we understand church, in the past. Totally a new concept, and everything is new about how to run the church. It is really Zion's church. Right? And we thank God for the gift and grace that is upon the pastor, upon the congregation, the whole church rallying together, to really go in, to attack this domain, the political domain. So we just thank you for your testimony. I think that's really wonderful. Praise God. Praise God for such a testimony.